Welcome to our transition program. My name is Naomi Meyer. I am the transition coordinator for the Epilepsy Foundation Texas. I'm glad all of you are joining us today. I know we're very excited to have Abby here with us. She has just published her book about growing up living with epilepsy, and we're very excited to hear more about her experience today.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Moreau, and I'm the program director at the Epilepsy Foundation Texas, and I'm in the Houston office today, and you just heard from Naomi, who's in our Dallas office. We also have a group from San Antonio joining us, along with all of you individually throughout the state of Texas. So we welcome you, and we're happy that you're here with us. I'm just going to give you a few little pointers for all of you out there on the webinar. So in your box that comes up, you'll see that you have the ability to look at some handouts. And those handouts include Abby's tip sheets and some information about our organization and some events that we have coming up. So be sure to check those out and download those if you can. And then you also have the ability to ask questions. There's a question box, and you can type in questions. And I'll be on the other end and either be able to ask Abby at the end, or I can answer them during the program. So be sure to ask your questions, and we'll hold them to the end for Abby. And then last but not least, this transition program is offered because we received a grant from HRSA, Health Services Resource Administration. It's a federal grant. And the way that this grant works is that we're helping to improve access to care for children and youth with epilepsy. And the federal government wants to know if we're doing that correctly. So there will be an evaluation at the end of this webinar, and we would ask you if you could please fill out that evaluation. It would greatly help us and let the government know what we're doing right, and it'll help us know what we need to improve as well. So we would appreciate your help and consideration of that survey. So I'm going to turn it back to Naomi, and she is going to tell you a little bit more about our guest speaker today, Abby.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. So Abby, like I said, just published a book about her experience living with epilepsy. Abby's been working with us down in the Houston office with the transition program. She's been helping us mentor the teams that join us. So we're very happy to have you here today, Abby. And like I said before, we're very excited to hear the information that you have to share with us.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep that up so I can see him. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Whoops. Hold on. Let me put you back up. Just see if you can click.
Still click. Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But I can see it.
Okay. Here. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Abby Gustus Alford. I want to first thank Rebecca, Pat, Naomi, and the entire Epilepsy Foundation of Texas, Sheena, leading our Galveston group, for having me speak and believing what I have to say is valuable to help families and other people, teens with epilepsy. I want to start by giving you a little bit of background. I started having seizures when I was 12 years old. That was my very first seizure. So there's a little picture of me when I was 12 years old. I was actually, I played very competitive sports when I was younger. I was on a traveling softball team and soccer team. It was life for me. And we happened to be on an out-of-town softball tournament when I had my very first seizure. I was with my mom and my brother in a nasty motel room because, you know, we traveled all the time. That's where we stayed. And I was actually in bed with my little brother, Byron, who's 2 years younger than me, and had my first grand mal seizure, arms flailing. My brother thought that I was, can you see me? Yeah, is that okay? Okay. Oh, cool. That's good. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so arms flailing, just grand mal seizure. Nobody knew what was going on. My brother thought I was playing a game with him. He thought I was just hitting him. And turned out my mom, my brother quickly realized that something was wrong, right? Because I was having a seizure, which neither one of them had ever seen before. The very first seizure that you ever see, I think everybody can relate, is terrifying. I don't think that seizures are not something that people talk about often, so I think it comes as a shock to most people. Even though 1 in 26 people have epilepsy, it isn't something that you learn about in school. You know, people don't necessarily talk about it, which is one of the reasons that I wrote this book in the first place. I was the only person in school. Like I said, I played competitive sports. It felt like I was the only person in St. Louis who had this seizure disorder out of all these people that we knew. So that's one of the benefits of being here in the first place, getting those relationships going and being able to ask questions. Oh, I want to back up. So things never stop. So first of all, I am standing up here, and right now my doctors are adjusting my medicine. And so I'm on, as of last week, 100 more milligrams of Lamictal. And so I've got the shakes. So yes, I'm a little nervous, but these tremors are very intense. So I've had epilepsy for 18 years, and those things just never stop. I was doing really well, but yeah, if you see me shaking a little bit, that's why. So I think my husband says, you know, give it some time. I think it won't affect you as much anymore, but it's pretty significant. So that said, if you see that, you know, don't worry, I'm doing okay. Everything's fine. That's just part of it, right? Okay, so this is me playing softball, and I just wanted to throw up a picture up there because, you know, everything looks absolutely fine, and turns out right around that time it wasn't. And so, you know, I had that seizure. I was in the emergency room for a day, and I was convinced that I could go back and play softball the next day. I was like, we're going to be in the championships. I have to be back out on that field. So I was in the hospital, and my mom and my friend's mom and the doctors were saying, Abby, no, you can't play this weekend. We got to figure out what's wrong, because at that point we didn't know. And you know, they had run me through every test in the book, which I'm sure all of you understand. And my reaction was, you ran all those tests and you can't figure it out? Please get with the program, doc. I just want to play. So turned out that it's not that easy. It never is. And so I didn't play. I had to watch from the sidelines and go home and start the process of figuring out what was wrong. So I like quotes. I like to go through some quotes that help me kind of go, you know, just they help me always. So life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. I'll say that to parents that it's really hard when you're in the moment for the teen or anybody with the seizure to be positive. I think that I can say that my parents stayed positive and kept that positive outlook, kept trying to figure out what was wrong, and that's what would happen. That's 90% of how you react to it is gonna be something that will help you, right? So when you do have that seizure, when you are feeling down because the medicine is causing a lot of side effects, making you shake, right now I can say I'm still doing it, still trying to react in a positive way, and just realize that, like my husband said, you know, maybe you'll get used to it, right? Maybe this'll, once it's in your system for long enough, it'll die down a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping. I've had probably, like you guys can tell, very supportive people around me and people telling me those kinds of things when I'm feeling down. So, of course, my mom, you can probably imagine, was like, well, what about you shaking? Are you going to be okay? When I told her that the doctors were increasing my medicine, her first reaction was, I don't know if that's a good idea, because the doctors are actually trying to get me on just one right now, just one medication instead of two. I'm on Keppra and Lamictal. So that's kind of their goal for me right now. So there's the family. That is my dad Doyle, my mom, my little brother Byron, and me on a trip right before we started having seizures. Hey guys, hey. Welcome. So I went, and this is pretty common, I'm sure all of you can relate. I had that first seizure when I was 12 and went to the doctor, got some medication, and the doctors were convinced this was a fluke. I wasn't going to have epilepsy. I took medicine for about 3 to 4 months, and then I was fine. So I was a zombie for that time period, but I was okay. And so I'm sure all of you potentially have been through this. We weaned me off, and I was okay. And so I went back to playing softball, playing soccer, doing everything, and 2 years later, on Mother's Day, actually, I was up taking a nap after we had had a big feast for Mother's Day, celebrating with all of my family, and I had a seizure right next to my mom. Called 911. The paramedics came. We weren't sure what was going on. This time my parents kind of knew what was going on. But the paramedics came, and the doctors automatically the paramedics said to my mom, well, you know, you can drive her to the hospital, it'll be fine. And my mom was like, absolutely not. She's going with you in case this happens again. We don't know what we're doing. So I went in the ambulance, and my family followed behind down to a hospital in St. Louis. And good thing, within a couple hours, I had another grand mal seizure, and we called, so because it was pretty serious, my neurologist, pediatric neurologist at the time, came down to the emergency room, and he said to my parents, she's declared herself. She has epilepsy. And so I think that was a turning point for us. That was really hard. I was very successful playing soccer and softball, so it was devastating, and that meant I was going back on medicine. I was going to be tired. This was 18 years ago, so you can probably imagine we've come a long way. We haven't come far enough, but the options back then for medicine was, well, it's still not that good. This is not normal, okay? You're not going to see somebody you know, with another type of disease having these side effects. You're not going to, they're serious side effects, but eventually they're working towards a goal of cures, right? We're not working towards that yet, which is not okay. So I think that what the Epilepsy Foundation to Raise Awareness is doing is fantastic, but we're just not there yet. I have friends now that are doctors, and I try not to get too mad at them, but do a little bit, saying, this is the best you guys can do. This is, you know, 2016, come on. But it's a work in progress, and I think a lot of it has to do with awareness. So everybody here has a part now that you know someone with epilepsy. Everybody has a responsibility to the people they love to talk about it and raise awareness and work towards that cure. A lot of you I know have VNS. That was something that was too new at the time for us as a family, but that's still not a cure. right? It's still not working for everybody. People are doing fantastic. People have made great strides. Sophia, great strides. Cameron, who most of you know, great strides. But it's Tristan, but it's just not, it's not a cure. And so there's one person out of all the work I've done with the Epilepsy Foundation and with people across the country that I've known who's had a cure from brain surgery. And that's just not a good statistic. So that said, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I kept playing. I was very stubborn. I did not want to quit softball and soccer. So that wasn't an option for me. And even though my parents weren't necessarily totally on board, I realized that as I was writing the book, a lot came out between my parents and me. But they let me keep playing. So this is a picture of me playing soccer. I was on a select team. I played for the Missouri Olympic Development Team. One of the girls on my team is on the national team now. So we were very competitive. And what started happening was, and I'm sure everybody here again can relate, I would have a seizure and then I couldn't function for 2 to 3 days. So I was slowly getting to the point where I was no longer a starter, right? I was always a starter. I was always the starting sweeper. I was really excited about that, thought for sure I wanted to play in college, and it slowly, I was just always like once I started taking medicine, I was always one step behind everybody, and it was really, really depressing. And so I know that my dad decided that he was going to talk to the coaches behind my back, which is fine now in hindsight. At the time, I'm glad he didn't tell me that. I would have been so mad. He talked to the coaches because my parents were very, very scared of me having doing head balls, right? Because as a defender, that's one of the most common things you're doing, especially on corner kicks. So we were defending the goal, and I went up for a head ball against their offensive player, and our heads knocked. And you could hear it from the stands. It was terrible. And as a family, that's when we decided that this was just not going to be something I could continue doing. During high school, we could not get my seizures under control. We were doing everything we could, and we just couldn't get there as a family. I'd try one medicine. I was on Tegretol, I was on Trileptal, I was on Depakote, and nothing was working. So we were with, I put in the book, I don't call the doctors by their name because I was angry with them at times. So to protect their identities, I called them Dr. Nicholas and Dr. Palmer because golf became a sport that I loved after time, because that was not a contact sport. And so we picked up golf, and so it was actually just amazing. Jack Nicholas passed away right after the book came out, so I felt like that's cool.
He's still alive.
Oh, was it Palmer? Sorry, Arnold Palmer. Oh gosh, well that's embarrassing, but you guys know what I meant. But somebody, yeah, one of those guys. That's right. So he passed away right after the book came out. I thought, oh, that's cool. He'll always be around in the book. So I wanted to tell you a couple stories. During high school, it was really hard for my family. We had, I didn't want to take my medicine. I was furious, to say the least, about taking my medicine because I was one step behind all the other girls. I didn't feel like that was fair. I didn't feel like having epilepsy in the first place was fair. Nobody else had to deal with that. Why was I dealing with that? And so I would take my medicine and then leave it at home and not tell my parents. And so one night, yeah, I was not an easy child. One night, I had a seizure and I fell out of bed. My parents rushed into my room and, picked me up, put me back in bed. At that point, we were well aware of what was going on with epilepsy, and I didn't mind having seizures because I was like, whatever, I'll be fine in 24 hours. I didn't realize at the time the severity of it, and I just didn't care. I wanted to be like everybody else. I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to take my medicine, and so I didn't. And now I regret it, but at the time I didn't. And so I fell out of bed, and my mom and dad came in, scooped me up, put me back in bed, kissed my forehead, went back to bed. And my mom told me this story after I was fighting them. I'll never forget, we pulled into the bank and she started crying. And I was like, "What's wrong, Mom?" And she said, "I need you to take your medicine. I need you to. I can't do this anymore." And I said, "Well, why? What's going on?" "I don't care." And she told me that the night before, she had reached over to my dad because she had heard him sniffling in bed, and she felt tears running down his face. And so that got me. That story got me because I realized that I was hurting the people that I loved most, and for me that was a turning point, because the fact that my dad had cried, I'd never seen my dad cry. Now I think it's only been once or twice I've seen him cry, but for me that was just like, ooh, I couldn't take it. So knowing that it was hurting my family that bad, I started to think differently. And I said to my mom during that time, I said, "Mom, we can't keep going to Dr. Nicholas. He was a pediatric neurologist for ADHD. That was his specialty. Now, he treated people in St. Louis that had epilepsy, but it wasn't good enough." And at that point, I was about 15. We weren't getting anywhere, 15 or 16. And so finally, we couldn't wait anymore. St. Louis had a fantastic epilepsy center, and that should say my parents actually were smart enough to go through any door that opened. but I'll that I just love that quote from Joan Rivers, because later I started taking those opportunities as soccer and softball became something I just couldn't do anymore. We knew I wasn't going to be able to play in college, and we knew that that just wasn't going to be a possibility. So we found the epilepsy. I say we at this time. I wanted nothing to do with this, and so parents, I urge you to stay diligent, persevere even when you're getting pushed back. I know a lot of the kids that I work with now, I'm just totally impressed by them because they don't give as much pushback as I ever did, and so that makes me proud. That makes me feel like we're moving in the right direction, but I just never got there. And so whether I wanted to or not, I was headed downtown to the Epilepsy Foundation, and that's where we met Dr. Palmer. And I had my first visit with him, and we went in. He was young. He was vibrant. I liked his vibe at the time. I was like, okay, I could do this. And the first thing that he wanted to do was a video EEG. And so that to me was very, very frustrating. And that's my little brother. That's us in high school when we were on our first day of school. And so my reaction to his very first suggestion of a video EEG was, why on earth would you want me to have seizures? What is wrong with you? Force me to have seizures? Are we kidding? And so my dad, we got home, we talked about it as a family, and my mom and dad, no matter what I had to say about it, well, they let me speak. They let me say my piece. My piece was, this doctor wants to turn me into his own personal lab rat. That's how I felt at the time. Having seizures over and over, that didn't make sense to me. And so, I was very, very angry about that, frustrated, sad, and I just couldn't believe someone would want you to have seizures over and over. But I was very lucky. They started giving us information about why that was a good idea, what we could learn from all of that information, and this clinic was amazing. And these doctors and nurses started showing us possibilities. Well, what if you didn't have to have seizures anymore? What if we could tell you what was going on? At that point, I had millions of EEG, not millions, but it felt like that, EEGs, tests, MRIs, and nothing came up. No, they couldn't tell us anything about why I was having seizures. And so they were pretty excited about it. I was like, okay, well, their positive vibes kind of got me excited about it. And so I was like, all right. So senior year of high school, we went into the video EEG down at Children's, and I got really excited. So throughout the book, I have little tidbits of advice for both parents and teens, and this is just some of the advice that I found helpful. You guys can all have copies, but it's also in the book. What if I don't have a seizure while I'm in the hospital? Are there other tests that you're planning to do while I'm there? How is this information different? What's your ultimate goal? And my parents thought of some of these questions, but we didn't necessarily think of all of them. And so sometimes in the book, I just kind of put little pieces, tidbits of advice, because it's just other stuff to think about. Now that I'm older and we've been through it, there's just things to think about. And so that's kind of what I need to bring with me. What's the time frame for when we'll see results? Can I have visitors? All those things. So we went in, and the Dr. Palmer, at the time, he told my mom and I, he said, well, we'll take you off your medicine, but it'll probably take you 3 or 4 days before you have a seizure. And we just looked at each other and laughed. It was like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll have a seizure in 12 hours. And so, he was like, whatever, it's how long it normally takes. And so we went in, and he said, take your morning dose of medicine, and then, we'll see what happens. Well, that night, had a seizure, got my first one on camera, and he walked into the room next day, and he said, told you. We told you that would happen. And so he's like, well, now I believe you. I was like, yeah. So that was good, because that was data. And he walked in, and he said, do you want to see what your seizures look like? And I couldn't watch it. I didn't want to see it. I've still to this day never seen myself have a seizure. I've seen other people have seizures, but I haven't seen myself, which I regret. I wish I knew what it looked like. And so if you go to if you do a video EEG, just think about it. Think about watching it, so that you have the information of what your family is seeing, just for your own good. I'm not saying you have to. It's a choice that you can make, but I wish I would have done that. And actually, I have a new doctor now who I love. He's the one that increased my medicine, and I think, bless you, we're gonna go ahead and do that. So I am gonna watch it now, but knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And so when you know and when you can ask questions like this, it empowers you to make better decisions, to just feel in control of your life. Bless you. And so I urge all the teens in here to, one of the things that I wish I would have done growing up is really ask questions. I always said, Mom, go for it, tell the story, do it, whatever you want to know, that's fine. And she would always ask the questions. Empower yourself, be part of the process, ask questions, and get that knowledge. So we did that test. Dr. Palmer came in, and I did look at the results of the EEG. It was fascinating. I'm sure all of you have potentially seen EEGs where you've had a seizure, but wow. If you haven't, that's something to consider looking at too, but it just shows all of your brain activity during a seizure, and it's amazing. And so I could not believe that. No wonder we're all so tired after it. Geez. That is a lot of brain activity in a short period of time. So we captured it. I learned that my seizures are coming from my occipital lobe during that time. I turned my head this way. I thought everything he was telling me was fascinating. And so go get that knowledge. Go get those answers. Understand, learn about that stuff, because it is interesting. Turned out one of the risks for me having brain surgery, we did consider it, that's why I was there in the first place, was that I had a 50% chance of going blind to do surgery. So we talked about it because this was right before I was going to college, actually. I was ready to do it. My parents said, no, we can't take that risk. They found that risk too much. I didn't. I thought it was worth the risk, but they did. And I still, to this day, I don't know where I stand on it. I don't know. I still wonder sometimes if it would have worked, but life goes on. So what we did is we asked Dr. Palmer about small adjustments that could be made to my medicine, and he made, so I was having seizures when I was sleeping, and he made one of the best adjustments for me that I ever could have asked for right before I went to college. He had me take more medicine at night, and his recommendation for that, I was always taking same dose morning and night. His recommendation for that, and why, was because I could sleep off some of those really, really difficult side effects that I was dealing with, the tired, the foggy, and so it was huge for me. So I urge you to say to your doctors, what's a small adjustment that you've made for a patient in the past that's kind of dealing with the same thing I am, that you could recommend for me if you are feeling those side effects in a way that you just don't feel like is okay. Because chances are those doctors have seen some success in another patient, and I'm not saying it always works, but man, that made a huge difference for me, especially going to college and needing that extra energy, because college is tough. So I urge everybody to just ask about an adjustment or two. So I went to college. I went to Purdue. This is me and Purdue Pete, our mascot, at a football game. I loved it. I had an amazing, amazing experience. I wasn't always picked on in high school, but there were some things that happened that were very tough for me. I got TP'd because I couldn't go to sleepovers because I might have a seizure. We got egged. High school kids are mean. They can be mean. And I think that we could be easy targets when you have epilepsy. I just feel like that's, and then now we didn't have social media when I was we didn't get Facebook till I was in college, but man, some of the stories I hear from you guys, it just breaks my heart. So one of the things, and I'll say it later, is surround yourself with people that aren't going to do that to you. Tristan, you've done a great job finding that friend to take care of you, to watch your back. And I urge you, I had great friends in high school, but I don't know that those people were ever going to stand up to the crowd. And so, they were fantastic, loved me for me, but they never stood up to the crowd when those hard things happened. So, nor would I expect them to. But anyway, college is a new place. People just don't judge you like that. I didn't find. People are supportive, and it's just a new way of thinking. I kind of feel like, and so I kind of say I found myself there. That's where I really ended up starting to thrive. So before you go to college, one of the things that you need to do is go to whatever college disability resource center you have. Those are the people that will make sure, and high school is important for this too. I was in a situation, and probably many of you are, where we had a great relationship with my high school. It was small enough to where if I had a seizure, they said, fine, Abby, Byron, my brother, would pick up my homework, no problems. But for us, that backfired when I went to Purdue. Purdue is so big that you have to have formal documentation for any accommodations that you need in college. We didn't have that. So if you're in high school now and you have a seizure and you need a couple days to recuperate, get that in writing from your high school and make sure that you have that ready to go for college, because they'll need that documentation that you've already started that. It's easier to get in high school than it is in college. They'll require your medical records, or at least for me they did. I'm sure not all colleges are the same, but these are just things to keep in mind as you're going through high school that they might need and that are you should have ready. So Dr. Palmer had to write us a note to let him know what was, and then this cannot be done, these accommodations and letters cannot be done once school starts, at least at Purdue, because that means you're trying to go back, and I don't know what it means, to be honest. I'm not an expert in the Disability Resource Center. I'm sure there's times when people have developed epilepsy in the middle of a semester and need help. But I will say it's easier to get it prior to the semester starting. It always was for me. And then we got a letter that I was required to formally give to each teacher prior to the semester. So it was great at a big school. I got to know all my professors. It was a blessing for me because, that 89, they knew me. It was like, okay, I know Abby, out of 200 people, we'll help her out. So for me, I got to know my teachers at Purdue, and that was a great experience because I was in a sorority. Hardly any of my sorority sisters knew their teachers. So there are some advantages to it. That was one I found. So we used that, and I have to introduce you to Kelly. So when I say find that support system, this is what I mean. Kelly was my college roommate. She was my freshman year roommate. She was, I call her my angel. We met, this is a story that is kind of crazy, but I'll tell it anyway. So I got my notice from Purdue that Kelly was going to be my roommate, and it said Kelly Malloy, only Maryland. My mom was like, that's weird. And so we opened it, and I said, well, should I call her? And she was like, yeah, just give her a call. My mom said, well, my sorority sister married a guy named Malloy on the East Coast. So I called Kelly that day and said, hey, Kelly, is your mom's name Sue Stottlemyre? And she was like, yeah. I was like, our moms were sorority sisters at Purdue. Oh my gosh. So I didn't know Kelly. I never met her in my life until we got to Purdue. But there was just something about that we already had a bond. I was very lucky to have her as a roommate. And so of course, I didn't know this at the time either, but my mom spent the next hour on the phone with Sue telling her about my epilepsy and how Kelly could help me and all this stuff. I'm just glad I didn't know that at the time. So we went to college, and I didn't want to tell Kelly about my epilepsy. I wasn't comfortable at that point in my own skin, hadn't found a way to tell people, hadn't found that way to explain how to take care of someone who has a seizure, and so I never told her. Big mistake. So there are just people out there that aren't going to judge you because of that, and so I hope that my story can help the teens here get there faster and know that it's okay. People want to help. If they know what's going on and if you're comfortable explaining it, they're going to be there. And so I urge you to just, say that and come out with it. And so I never did. Well, I had a seizure. Shocker. One night after, partying, and I just remember waking up, and I said to Kelly, did I have a seizure? And she said, yes, you did. And I just started crying. I said, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. I felt like I betrayed my best friend in the world. I didn't tell her, and I was just devastated that I hadn't told somebody who loved me so much, and I loved her, and I hadn't told her the truth about how to help me, about what she should do, about not being scared, about that it's going to be okay if that happens. I was too embarrassed. Well, good old mom had told her. Yeah, no shocker there probably from all the stories I've told. But yeah, my mom had taken Kelly aside the day we moved in and told her about my epilepsy, how to help me, what to do. All of my friends always had my parents' cell phone numbers. After that happened, I learned that anybody I was going to live with always had my parents' cell phone numbers so that they could call my mom or my dad and just say, hey, here's what's going on. Even now when Evan calls my mom, she's like, what's going on? Evan's my husband. I tell him we were driving, I'm like, and he's like, I'll call her. And I was like, that's going to scare her. And of course it did. And she was like, I said, hi, Mom. And she was like, oh, you scared me. So it doesn't go away, but yeah, so I always did that, and as a parent, I think you're always able to help that person because you know how to help your child, and so give that cell phone number to the people that are closest to you, and just be ready for that phone call. You know what to do. You know how to calm someone down. You're that resource. So that is Kelly, best thing that ever happened to me, and I will always be grateful to her. So once I got to college, I started having some more confidence. Kelly being completely okay with the seizure and not judging me. And first of all, what helped me actually was that Kelly knew. She knew that whole time. It was well into the semester before I had a seizure, and she never brought it up. She never asked me about it. And I realized that day, I was like, she knew, and she didn't care. And so that was a turning point for me. The fact that Kelly never treated me any different after having known, I was like, well, maybe everybody has that. Maybe maybe people don't care as much as I had thought. And so, and she never bullied me. All those things from high school was like, this is going to be okay. There's people. So a girl or guy should be two things: who and what she wants. So, you know, find that confidence. It took me a very long time, but I urge you all to find it earlier. I think these programs are great to help you find it earlier. I think figuring out a way to talk about it earlier. I didn't go to these programs in high school, and I really wish I would have, because there were some great resources available. And so take advantage of those and be who and what you want earlier. Don't wait. So I joined a sorority, and these are a few of my sorority sisters. We went through Rush, and Rush is really, really hard on your body. You have, 18 parties one day, 10 the next, 6 the next. And so I was a little hesitant to Rush because of my epilepsy, but Kelly urged me to. And I always really wanted to be in a sorority. That's like when one door shuts, another one opens. That's kind of where I was leaning towards. And since I couldn't play a sport and I couldn't have those connections to different girls through that avenue, I wanted it through the sorority. And so that was something that was important to me, to find friends. And once again, so we went through Rush. I was a Chi Omega. Kelly was a Chi Omega. Our moms were Chi Omegas. We were legacies. And so we were Chi Omegas together. So we went to the house the very first night. We all sleep there as freshmen. And my pledge mom at the time walked me into the cold air bed. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. It's where everybody sleeps together kind of in bunk beds. So we walked in there, and you sleep in your pledge mom's bed that first night. And so she had a top bunk. So I was like, oh, great. So this was a brand new group of girls. I didn't want to be judged. It was older girls on top of that. I didn't say anything. So I had been through this really hard week of stuff with my, just not sleeping enough, and stress. Rushing is stressful, as you probably can understand. And so I got in the bed that night, had a seizure on the top bunk, fell out of bed. Thank goodness Kelly was there. She was there to take care of me. She was there to calm down all the other girls. She was there to explain what was happening. But I hope through that story I can help you understand why it's so important to tell people. Had Kelly not been there, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't. And so not only was I putting myself in danger, I was traumatizing 50 other girls for no reason. So so that's just something to learn from and keep in mind when you're going through all that stuff. So went through college. I had a fantastic college experience. I had some seizures. College is a rough time for people. You're not on a schedule. You sometimes remember, you sometimes don't. By that time, I was taking my medicine. I didn't want to have seizures in front of my friends. That mattered to me. So there were plenty of times when we would have to walk home from a party, go get my medicine, walk back. So that's another tip. Just keep it with you. No big deal. Keep it with you for when you forget. But I knew Purdue gave me the confidence to do more. I wanted to do more with my life. I wanted to go get a job. I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to live independently, and Purdue gave me that confidence. And so, and actually I should point out, these girls gave me the confidence. These girls didn't judge me. These girls supported me. These girls took care of me. And finally having those people around me made such a difference. And so I went home and I was like, I don't want to have seizures anymore. I'm getting surgery. That's what I'm doing. And so I had a mind of my own, and turned out that that was still not happening. So I call my dad Big D, Big Doyle. We sat down and I told him that I told him, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my surgery, just so you know. And he shut me down. He was like, no, you're not. So that was good, and he made sure I knew that, and actually I'm thankful to him now. You know, that father-daughter relationship throughout high school and college is little crazy. Some dads, I've heard some dads say now, I just stopped talking to my daughter for a couple years. Let her do her own thing. So he just said, no, you're not. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need you to tell me, and I'm going to think about it. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. Well, turned out I was going to have to take a semester off school, and that was not an option for me. I was not going to do that. So I went on to bigger and better things. I decided I was going to try and go to grad school at Northwestern in Chicago. I did an internship at MSNBC for a summer in New York City, and it was the coolest thing, one of the coolest experiences of my life. I worked for Dan Abrams. I don't know if you guys know him. He's the chief legal correspondent. Yeah. So I worked for him. It was the summer of the Natalie Holloway disappearance, the Michael Jackson trial, just really cool experience and exposure to news. And so I'm glad it wasn't an election cycle. Thank goodness for that. Then I would have been far away from that. So, but we did that, and I was like, I want to do news. Well, that schedule wasn't going to work. Those newscasters were crazy schedules, and I had to understand that I needed a 9-to-5 schedule. I found that when I had those schedules, graduate school, we did a year full, and it was 8 to 5, and my seizures were fantastic. I had maybe one or two stress tests. Bring them on. I was going to be on air one morning, and at Northwestern, everybody has to be on air and be on the PBS channel. And I went to bed, and I was just terrified. I was just absolutely terrified to be on air. I never wanted that. I wanted to be a producer behind the scenes anyway. So, but you had to take your turn. So I went to bed that night. I was like, okay, if I go to sleep now, I have 8 hours to sleep. That should be okay. If I go to sleep now, I'll have 7 hours, you know. And I just kept, and my heart was racing. And then I was like, oh gosh, now I can feel, my heart starts racing when I'm about to have a seizure. I don't know what anybody else has, but my heart starts pounding out of my chest, and I could feel it coming on. I was like, oh God. Went to bed, had a seizure. That stress of that. And what I wish I would have done was just talk to my teacher and said, this isn't something I'm comfortable with. If you ever have to do that, that's okay. If you know that something is stressing you out to that point where you can feel a seizure, I think most people can, say something. Don't put yourself through that. Just say something, and people will help you. People will make changes for you. So I wish I would have said something, and just the teacher would have been okay with it. They're okay with it when you're upfront and honest. So I had a seizure, and I had to go on air, and it was just miserable. So don't do that to yourself. Talk about it. So life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all, and I had adventure after adventure after adventure, and learned from each adventure. Wish I would have. Hopefully some of the takeaways that I've given you today will help you. That's me at graduation from Purdue at Chi Omega. I was very proud of that. I ended up getting 2 degrees because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. So I have my little bow with the 2 there. I was pretty proud of that. So some final advice to leave you with. I've mentioned this, always take your medicine. Keep it with you. Don't fight it. And if you talk to somebody. If you feel like you're having too many side effects, just say something. Talk to somebody about it. You can talk to your doctor. That's you're different, and that's okay. I'm different from all of my friends. I'm different from my family, but that's okay. Epilepsy doesn't define me. but it's a part of who I am. And the sooner you embrace it and start kind of promoting yourself and talking about it, I really think it'll make a difference. You'll slowly get more and more comfortable in your own skin. Listen to your body. I didn't do that for a very long time. When you're tired, when you're feeling that heart racing because you have something stressful coming up, just listen to it and say something, because your body will tell you when you're going to have a seizure. For the most part, I know not all of us can tell when it's coming on, but those triggers, your body is going to tell you. The seizures you have now will affect you later. So teenagers, please listen to this. Get your seizures under control as soon as possible, because I have huge memory problems now. I work full time, but I have significant problems now because of all those seizures that I had when I was in high school and college. I didn't take it seriously. My parents did, yes, and we got as much help as we needed, but if I would have just taken it a little more seriously, I feel like some of those memories I wouldn't have lost forever. Some of those family trips we talk about, it's a blank slate for me. I can't remember anything. So it'll affect you later. So take your medicine. Remember, to take care of yourself. Make those good decisions. When it's late, go home, go to sleep, because you don't want to lose all those memories and all of those times with your family. My memory is terrible. My doctor says some of it's from Keppra, but not all of it's from Keppra. There's a lot of it that is from the seizures themselves. Everybody can handle the truth. Everybody. If you can be honest and help your friends and family understand, people can handle it, and they want to know. They want to know how to help you. Friends and family, they want to be a part of helping you, and they want to be a part of talking about it and raising awareness. So let people know everybody can handle the truth. Find a way to say it that works for you. I am so much more comfortable telling people I have seizures now, but it took me a long time to get there. So figure out a way, whether it's through, I always work it into job interviews now. I've figured out that way that works for me to tell my employers. Now, everybody knows you do not have to do that. It is protected information. But I prefer to tell people. I've just gotten to that point over time. I'm sure through my stories you realize that took a long time, but I prefer to let people know, but you don't have to. But friends and family, when it doesn't affect jobs or anything, I would just figure out a way to tell them and tell them how to help you. Knowledge is power. We've talked about that. Teens, get that knowledge, understand, learn as much as you can, find the right balance for you. The right balance for me didn't come until later in life when I started working full-time. I learned quickly a schedule was really good for me, and balance was really good for me. Knowing that I could, if I go out this night, if I have a work happy hour on Tuesday, the rest of the week I need to be careful. I need to make sure I'm getting enough sleep and make sure. So that balance, it's okay to say no. People understand. And then surround yourself with supportive people. Find those people who love you, who are not affected by the seizures, and keep them near and keep them close. And so those are my supportive people. Most of them are family, but a lot of them are friends. And every step of the way, I was able to find one person in my life who was willing to take care of me, be that, supportive person. So I urge everybody in each stage, whether it's when you are in high school, when you are in college, grad school, living independently for the first time, find one person that is going to be that person. Even if it's a family member, a lot of times it was, I'm with 5 boys up there. This is my husband, and these are my cousins. So it's not all my boyfriends, but it's just cousins. But yeah, find those people and surround yourself with them. So
Okay, so now it's question and answer time, and Naomi, if you want to come back on with the Dallas group, come back on. I do have one question from the audience so far.
Okay.
So Jennifer is with us, and she asked, she has a son, Matthew, who's in junior high.
Okay.
And he has a pretty rigorous schedule. He has a hard schedule, and he's fighting her on the sleep issue. So do you have any advice for those teens who keep on battling parents on different issues? For Jennifer, it seems, in high school, a junior in high school. Sorry.
Junior in high school?
Yeah, so he's up there in the high school age. So any advice for helping parents get through?
Yeah, I feel his pain. I understand where he's coming from, because you don't want to feel different. You don't want to do anything less than all of your friends. I would assume that probably a big part of it is that his friends aren't having to slow down, but he is. And so a lot of it is...
she says that's exactly it.
Yep. So just like I said, one of my biggest pieces of advice to teens is that you may not want to slow down right now. I didn't. But those seizures, that's causing seizures. That lack of sleep is causing seizures probably. And it'll affect you later. It'll affect you in college when you're trying to remember that answer for the test. It'll affect you when you're in a meeting later in life for a job and you're presenting and you can't. I wanted to tell you guys about my shakes. That was the first thing I wanted to tell you, and I forgot. So it affects me. I feel it. I know. I forgot within 5 minutes of stepping up here. That happens, and I truly believe that is because of my seizures. So if there's one thing you take away, know that those seizures that you're having now, if you can help yourself, do it. Don't have those seizures, because if it's something simple like sleeping, I just do it. And then the other thing too is there a way for him to potentially take naps before he goes to practice or before he does his thing? Like when I get really busy at work or have stuff at night, networking functions and client meetings, I'll go home and take a nap. So maybe trying to adjust that. That's a recommendation. But to the teens, to the people, to the high schoolers that are fighting that, know that stuff affects you later. You think you're invisible, you're not. Does that help?
Yes. And so that's, if anybody else has a question out in the audience, and Jennifer said thank you, please go ahead and ask. But for, in Houston and in Dallas, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's a VNS? I've never heard that.
Vagus nerve stimulator. I'll let somebody who actually has it.
It's like a magnet inside of you, and you would have also a magnet on your hand. You would swipe it 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay.
And you would definitely feel it, but it would be giving kind of like a zap in your brain. Kind of like it would know when it would, kind of like this new VNS, it would know when your heart is pounding really fast. It would do it automatically.
So the question for everybody was, what's a VNS? And it's a new device. The Vagus, well, it's not new. But there's it's progressed a long way, I would say. New models that are, yeah. And so
we definitely want the audience out there to know. So the vagal nerve stimulator is a little disc-like, and now it's even gotten smaller, that is put either in your chest cavity or under your arm, and it's connected to the vagal nerve, and it can send pulses to the brain. So it's set at certain levels, so it continuously does that. And then if there is a seizure coming on, so some people have an aura or a sign that they're going to have a seizure, and they have a magnet with them, and they can swipe the magnet over the VNS, and some people are showing it here, and you can go on epilepsy.com to see some. Oh, thank you. So this is what it looks like, and that's inside your chest cavity, and you can see it protruding, so you can see where it is. And you take the magnet and you swipe it over 1, 2, 3, and that sends an extra charge. If somebody feels like they're going to have a seizure, it could hopefully stop the seizure. If somebody is in a seizure and you, as the caretaker, swipe the magnet, it could possibly stop the seizure sooner than normal. And so it's another form of treatment that you can look into. And I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything else about VNS, but that's the little part of the scientific or the info part.
Mostly depends on how strong your seizure is, actually.
Yes.
If it would work or not. Like if it was a mild seizure, it probably would work. But if it was one of those strong seizures, 50-50%, depends. Because I've never heard about it.
Yeah, and that's so important, and that's why there's these tips in the book. There's extra questions to ask your doctors. What are some new treatments? What are other people doing for? I just learned this week that there's going to be a vagus nerve stimulator to put directly on your brain.
Yeah, it's called the RNS.
Yeah,
so
RNS.
It's already out there.
That's unbelievable. That seems, for me, that's too new, but.
I think with VNS, I think you have to have, I think there's a certain amount of number of medications you have to try before you get to that point, before your doctor recommends it.
Same with brain surgery.
Right.
That's not an option until you fail. I had to fail 5
Medications?
medications before it was an option. And fail just
But every
means
doctor is different.
every doctor is different,
Consult with your
and
physician.
absolutely, and yeah, I agree. Consult with your physician before you do that. Failing a medicine means that you have a seizure while you're on that medicine. Yep.
When was the last time you had a seizure?
I'm 32. I have about 1 seizure a year. The last one that stands out, it was dumb. I was in Napa. Made bad decisions. And, that's something that you just need to be very, very careful with. I stayed up too late. I was, partying with we were celebrating my brother's engagement.
So you had one.
We did have fun, but like I said, we had a lot of fun, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. The seizure wasn't worth it for me.
So does your husband know how to take care of you when you're having a seizure?
My husband does.
The questions.
Does my husband know how to take care of me when I have a seizure? My husband does know how to take care of me. He still calls my mom and dad. We've been married for 3 years, together for 7.
Oh. Can you share your story, the connection that you have with your husband and epilepsy? Because I think that's a unique piece of your story.
Absolutely. My husband's dad has epilepsy. And so when we met, we didn't know that. He didn't know that. I did tell my husband. Did tell my husband before I ever had a seizure. So I got that on the table. Well, it turned out his dad had epilepsy he still does, from a brain tumor. So yeah, we have a unique connection. My father-in-law, absolutely, we get along fantastic because we do have a bond. Everybody with epilepsy has a bond. And so.
That can be like a great conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you start writing this book?
So the question is, when did I start writing this book? I started writing this book 10 years ago, actually. It was right after college, and I felt like I had so much to say and tell people from what I learned through high school and college, because I was like, why did I make so many bad decisions? And so that's when I started writing it, and then got busy with work and stopped. And then about a year ago, right, this time of the year, I had talked to some people that I was doing it, and a publisher and editor contacted me, and they said, why don't you think about finishing that? And I was like, I don't know. Well, they convinced me to do it, and January I started really buckling down and writing it, and then by September was when I finished. So it took me 9 months to really finish it.
What do you do to help with your memory at work?
The question is, what do I do to help with my memory at work? Where's my...
Where's your Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this. I carry it with me everywhere, and I have, it's so funny, I have like 8 of these now at my house, so that no matter what, I can go back in any time to read what I was doing at whatever time, and I put the date on every single page, and then write everything down, and have different colors because I'll do something and then I'll forget at work. And so I'll have to go back and say, even on the same day sometimes, and be like, did I do that? And everybody says, oh, I do that too, you know, and laugh about it, right? Because everybody has bad memory problems. This is different. This is, I don't want to make you feel bad if you think you have memory problems, but this is a significant difference, and so I urge everybody to keep one, whatever works for you. It could be your phone, you know.
Is that what you did at school also, like for college?
I didn't do it as significant. I wish I would have. I found this to work for me later when I, you know, because I had more tasks. But yeah, college, I think if you can do something like this in high school and college, it'll really help you. I didn't realize I was having bad memory problems till later in work. Work was when it really affected me. Presentations, that's hard for me still. Word finding, I don't know if anybody here has problems word finding. Yeah, I have a lot of word finding problems. Now I'm comfortable enough in work situations to ask people, say, what's that word for?
Isn't it like at the tip of your tongue, where it's like you see the kind of it's like
right now.
You see like the image of it in your head, and it's like
your tongue
yeah,
has
it's
it,
like
and
you're right there at it.
the
You
word.
have to like
Yeah.
describe it.
Exactly, and then
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, Mom, like if you know what I'm talking about, just
Yeah,
tell me.
yeah, mostly you just ask like
Yeah.
your parents, like, what's the definition of that word again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
a dog.
I have
that
it.
can word
It's so
find and a mother
irritating.
can word find.
Yeah,
It's-
it seems like now I'm like having more and more like problems
Yeah.
with the definition of the
Now,
word.
like, I just downloaded more apps, so I'm just going over, like, vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's so irritating now. It's just, like, illustration, there we go. So, like, it's illustration within your head, and, like, you're just finding images. Yeah, no, it's irritating.
It's hard, and when you're, you know, in a work situation or a presentation situation, you can usually work around it. I'm sure all of you do. You can find another word, but when I'm at work, it's like I just ask. I don't pretend anymore to, you know. I'm like, what is that word? And then people help me.
What should we do if we are stressed out in high school and that like we can't really do anything because they canceled the resource class at HISD, and we get even more like frustrated and yeah, like.
What the question is, what should we do in high school if we're super stressed and they
It's like
canceled a resource class?
And we can't do anything about it, and that like we can't catch up, like you said before. Like, but one.
My suggestion is to, and Adrian, I don't know if, can we have another meeting?
We have to have
Okay. So we need to, so what I would suggest if they're canceling those kinds of classes is to sit down. Schools have to. They are required by law to make accommodations for disabilities. And so it can take multiple meetings, but also Sophia asked the question, and there are resources. What we did in that situation, I would say we do it again. I actually went with them to the meeting at school and facilitated because it was getting too personal between the teachers and Sophia and Adrian, and so I facilitated the process at that meeting. So I urge you to, if it gets to that point where you don't feel like you're getting the help you need, reach out to someone. I've gone to school meetings. I'm happy to go with you if you need that, because a third-party facilitator can really help. And I can also help explain to the teachers that Sophia's not making this up. She needs that help. This is happening to her, and it's just another voice outside of the parents helping those teachers and administrators understand more about epilepsy. Like I said, people don't talk about it. There's no cure. You know, there's so many. Alzheimer's has a lot more recognition. Cancer, and the other thing I always say is they're treating epilepsy the same no matter what type of epilepsy you have, which is not okay. You don't treat brain cancer the same way you treat colon cancer. They figured out it's different. But epilepsy, nobody's talking about that. They act like we're all the same. And so just kind of bringing awareness to that, and then yes, find a resource, find a third party that can help facilitate that meeting. And I'm more than willing to help. I've done it. The foundation will help. There's people out there. So yeah.
Do you color code the words for different days or something else?
The question is, do I color code? Absolutely. I color code when I've done something in red, so I can't cross it off. I have to put one line through it so I can see what it was, so that I know I did it. Like I can't just like pretend like I never did it, because I'll have to go back and look at it. So yeah, I color code and scratch off stuff in red so that I know I did it, but I can still see it, what it was I did.
For Sophia, I am special ed classes, and I have an office period during fifth period, and I go to my math and science teacher, she's the same teacher, and I ask, hey, I missed this day, can I copy your notes? And she lets me do it during the period. Maybe you can take a picture of it or something?
So yeah, so the suggestion is that she gets to go during an open period to her class to get notes from the science and math teacher, and potentially take a picture of the notes. Yes, that works.
The note-taking assistant is one of the accommodations.
That's also available. I would say if you can, get that, but then make yourself write them out yourself.
That's what I do.
Okay.
I get my teacher's notebook.
Yep.
I flip to the days and stuff, and then I just copy the notes during my office period.
Yep. Make yourself write it yourself, because inevitably we're having some trouble learning stuff as quickly probably as people who don't have seizures. So what I would do when I was studying in college is I would write over and over. I'd take the same notes over and over and make myself, that's what helped me remember it. So it wasn't just reading through something, it was actually physically writing it down over and over.
Yeah, my mom believes that I'm having seizures because of stress.
Oh yeah.
Because of like, my high school, they hardly do PowerPoints. They just mostly just speak of it with like as a professor, kind of like that you're already in college, and like I can't. Yeah, it's like it's too difficult, and they think I'm just being lazy mostly.
Yeah. Well, we need to have our meeting.
Dallas, I just want to make sure that our Dallas group and our San Antonio group gets a chance to ask any questions if they need any questions answered from Abby.
Abby, I'm interested to know if you've ever run into someone that you told, that you was a little uncomfortable with that, or, responded in a way that you maybe didn't expect.
That's a really good question. And that was Naomi, right?
Yep.
Okay. That has never happened to me, but that has happened to some people I know. And so, first of all, that made me very angry. So I had to. What was the question? Okay. Have you ever told anybody and gotten a response that you didn't expect? Like,
yes.
Somebody decided, whoa, I don't want to have to deal with that, or that's not something I'm interested in being around. For me, the answer was no, but potentially, and they just didn't tell me. Work You know, when I didn't tell people the first job I had at McCarthy in St. Louis, they were like, really? You know, and so that was something I was a little taken back by. But I think it was because I didn't tell them up front. I told them after I had a seizure. But I do know that there are some stories that I've heard that just absolutely horrify me. One was a girl that is here, and her professor told her that he wouldn't help her with her VNS. First of all, that's not okay, and I think it's illegal. I think schools have to help you, and I think people compared it to the heart attack rule. What's that called? It's like a something act. Good Samaritan Act. Yeah, like you have.
It's against the ADA.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Okay. Yeah. You can't do that. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Right. It's illegal. So.
What's difficult is the diastat. You know, anyone who takes diastat with you, I've got a teenager, and I say something, you know, please do this when this happens, and everybody's like,
Please.
It's not a sexual act.
Please, yeah. So the statement was, please do something when a seizure happens, and some people are like, whoa, no, I don't want that responsibility. But you know, nobody says that about somebody having a heart attack. You know, people say they're going to help someone having a heart attack. Why wouldn't you help someone having a seizure? So I urge you to use use other medical conditions that people are more familiar with when not to say that that's okay, but to explain that if someone were having a heart attack right here, would you help them? The answer is yes, because their answer is probably yes, because people are familiar with that. So I urge you to use, just like the cancer, you know, brain cancer and colon cancer, you're not going to treat them the same. So why are we doing that with epilepsy? So I urge you to start using, because the medical community is advanced, start using some of those similarities to bring people forward and educate people that this is a condition just like any other that you're more familiar with.
And I would also say that our education of school personnel doesn't stop at high school. So we can go out to colleges, we can go out to any school, and we have accredited programs that are specifically for school personnel and specifically for school nurses. So definitely call Epilepsy Foundation Texas, call Epilepsy Foundation of Central and South Texas, and have us come out to your school, and we can do those trainings. The nurses get 3.2 CEUs. That's huge. It's free. That's huge to them. Mm-hmm. It's also online, so they could do it online as well. So any way that we can get out to schools and educate on these issues. We don't only educate on seizure recognition and seizure first aid, we also educate on the stigma, on the things that need to happen within the school to help our kiddos. So, our students. And so please use us as a resource to have us come out to those schools. Even like Abby was saying, the one-on-one, you know, if we're in that area or we can find a parent that's in that area that can help you, we will do everything we can to make that happen. I'm going to go ahead, and Naomi's going to wrap it up for us, and thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, so much.
I'll turn it over to Naomi.
Well, I'd just like to, say the same thing. Abby, thank you so much. It was a lot of great information, and as a person living with epilepsy myself, there were definitely some points that touched on a lot of what I've experienced. So I hope it's been helpful to all the teens out there and the parents as well. I'd just like to give you a little more information about our next meeting. We'll be meeting December 3rd. And for that December meeting, we're going to be doing a service project for kids who have to stay in the EMU for a certain amount of time. So we're really excited about that. We'll also be sharing some information that people have shared with us in the past about transition. So I hope you all can join us in that activity. Again, just having the opportunity to get to know each other. There are also flyers at the 3 locations with the dates for the transition school year. So please grab one of those so you can prepare to attend all of our sessions. We will also have that flyer up online, so that information will be available to you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email address is online. And also if you would like a copy of the slides or any information that was shared in this presentation, I am more than willing to share it with you. I guess I want to thank you for joining us.
Sorry, I just want to say, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is seizetheday@abby@gmail.com. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, and thank you so much, everybody out there. Don't forget to do that evaluation for us, and we really appreciate you helping us out, and we'll hopefully see you in December. Thank you.